Welcome to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast, hosted by Dawn Tura, CEO and President of SIG.
Folks, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Dawn Tura, and I'm so excited to welcome Hemanth Puttaswamy, who is the CEO and co-founder of Malbek. So Hemanth, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Happy to be here.
So you have the most interesting bio. So folks, you need to really tune into this. So Hemanth is a technology entrepreneur, and as CEO and co-founder at Malbek, his vision is to redefine the quote-to-cash solution aimed for the age of AI. Hemanth is a hands-on leader with a passion for building a great team with an amazing culture that zealously works to make every customer successful. He's responsible for the overall corporate strategy and product vision, with a keen eye towards building the best man-to-machine solution interface that will delight every user. Prior to Malbek, Hemanth was the CTO and SVP of Products and Development at Revitus, which was acquired by Model IN, Saba, acquired by Vector Capital, and VP of Technology or Core Metrics, acquired by IBM. You have a theme there, Hemanth. He holds multiple patents in the area of AI and big data analytics, and he has an MBA from San Jose State University, and a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science from Mysore University in India. Now, Hemanth feels he gets his best ideas while playing music, and if not at Malbek, he would be a starving musician. So with that intro, all right, of course, I have to ask, what are your instruments of choice?
So I play guitar and drums. Drums is how I started into the music, and then now I've fallen in love with guitar. So that's been my favorite instrument so far.
Electric or folk or?
Both, electric and acoustic. I mean,
wow.
I enjoy playing both. Yeah.
And do you sing too?
I sing a bit, but not as good. Like I'm an okay singer, but I have a lot to learn.
We might just have to get a little video clip of you to add to this podcast for everybody. Just saying,
Absolutely.
It might be fun. You never know.
Happy to do that.
And folks, before we get started, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. And when we get back, we're going to hear from this amazing guest, Hemanth Puttaswamy.
What is Sig University? We are an inclusive, internationally recognized university whose mission is to advance the procurement profession while enabling students to transform their careers through our world-class certifications. Sig University offers industry-recognized certifications programs, each offering a unique set of competencies and skills that sourcing and risk professionals need to be successful. The programs provide advanced training in subjects like strategic sourcing, supplier management, third-party risk management, intelligent automation, and more. Sig University is committed to academic excellence, which is why our students are trained alongside an international cohort, engage in discussion forums, and learn from senior practitioner faculty who leverage their deep industry experience with real-world case studies. Why Sig University? It was created originally at the request of SIG members. We knew there was a lot of training out there, but nothing designed around the ever-evolving skills and competencies that the modern sourcing and risk professional needs. The program was created through collaborating with dozens of industry experts to create a curriculum that is bold, fresh, and applicable to this day and age. If you're looking to advance your knowledge and your career, join us at SIG University.
So Hemanth, you are a Future 5 recipient, which tells us we need to pay attention to you and your company. So my understanding is that you are AI for contract management. Is that correct?
That is correct. So happy to have, getting that recognition on the Future 5. Yes, we are AI for contract management, and we do quite a lot, and happy to explain whenever you want me to.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey. You've been with other startups that have been sold, acquired, and things like that. But what took you to create this company?
Yeah, so a few companies back, I worked in this public company where they went through an incident where auditors found a lot of issues with the way revenue was recognized in that company. And it was a public one, and they had to go back and restate the financials for the last 10 years. 10 years.
Wow.
Restatement. Yeah. And it all boiled down to something which which no one thinks, which is contracts, right? Which is bad contracting, non-standard terms, non-standard clauses. And that's when I realized, like the bad effects of doing the worst contracting. And on the other side, the sales team continuously saying, okay, I'm not able to get my contracts through. I'm not able to get my deals in the quarter as fast as I want it to be. So that's when the light bulb went off. That's the beginning of this journey for me.
So when did you start the company? Can I ask?
So we started in 2017 of March 2017. And little less than 5 years, and it's an amazing journey.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, where are you located? Where's the company?
So the company, we are three founders. Two founders are in the West Coast, and one founder is in the East Coast, New Jersey. Two founders in San Francisco Bay Area. So we are truly bi-coastal, and our company is very distributed. So we have employees in 17 or 18 states in the US, and we have an office in India.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I've been in the sourcing space for a long time. Do you realize how important it is for Spend Matters to recognize you?
Oh, actually, I'm very new to this space, meaning, once I got into the CLM, then I realized how big Spend Matters is. It's an honor. It's an honor to be recognized. And we are looking forward to become a unicorn and beyond.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So the name Malbek, tell me, where does that come from?
So that's an interesting story. We founders, we were in San Jose drinking Argentinian Malbec wine.
I was wondering if there's a wine connection there.
Yeah, thinking about starting this company, and the other two guys, Madhu and Matt, they were like, they knew that's something I'm thinking about, but they were like, are you serious? I mean, should we do it? We were like, yeah, we are drunk, let's do it. And we just kept it as a placeholder, believe it or not, with C. And then we changed from C to K because we couldn't find anything else which describes us. We're not drunkards, but we love wine. We love wine. All three of us love wine. So it was a perfect name for that.
Oh, and I love a good Malbec, and it means that you're complicated but smooth at the same time. And so I think that's a great, I was wondering if there was that connection. So thank you for that. So for our listeners, can you give us a couple of sentences how your company, Malbek, stands apart from the competition out there? Sure.
So Malbek, like the three areas where we differentiate ourselves against anyone in the space is the user experience. It is literally consumer grade experience. If you have to, if you learn how to operate Malbek in the first 5 minutes, you'll be able to operate the whole system. That's how easy it is.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. That's all I ask for. So that's the first differentiator. So the user experience is very consistent across the application. We put in a lot of effort there. The second one is the AI. AI is not about just the post-contracting or the pre-contracting. It is about the life cycle AI. Right from the time where you're drafting or you're ingesting a third-party contract to all the way to the negotiation with concrete recommendations from AI on how to take positions to the signature and post-signature, right? Every part of the life cycle, we've infused AI algorithms.
So that's okay. So even negotiations.
Even negotiations. That's
wow.
Right.
Okay, that does set you apart. So you're rather new to the procurement world, but obviously you are a trendsetter, and you recognize that there was a huge issue that we face, which is we can't manage all these contracts and without I really wonder how a company could get by with a pandemic without a contract lifecycle management software package to start with, and so tell me, what kind of trends are you seeing that are moving into procurement, and why do you think you're a good fit for all of that right now?
Sure. What we definitely, as you rightly recognized, in the last 2 years, it has picked up like crazy. The demand is really, really good. And the idea is pretty simple. They thought, like everyone thought, okay, contracts can be done on the paper. You go and mark, like what positions you were going to take, whether it's acceptable, non-acceptable. Imagine times 100, times 1,000, times 10,000, right? And the collaboration that needs to happen from the procurement team with the legal team, with logistics team, with so many other departments. That is not tenable. That's not sustainable if you have to do it on the paper. So then, of course, the first thing was, okay, let's start with the paper. Let's start with the digitization. Mm-hmm. And that was not enough. Now, the AI is where it has accelerated a lot. Where, okay, the time it used to take to review a contract that you're getting on the vendor side, if it was taking, let's say, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, sometimes with all the back and forth, that can be reduced to 30 minutes or less, right? AI can give you all the previous positions that you've taken, right? It can mark the contract. It can auto redline and then tell you, okay, these are the reasons why it is auto redlined. And you, as like in the human, go through the AI recommendations and then accept, like AI is not perfect, but it does do a pretty good job of the positions that you've taken. And you won't be even remembering what you did 2 years back, or forget about 2 years back, last month.
Okay, right? So that's something I want to explore, because that's exactly where my mind was going. I am, when I started in procurement consulting, it was always paper contracts. And we would find it on somebody's shelf or in somebody's drawer. And, if we were looking for a clause, it was like, and let's start paging through and seeing if the clause was there. But what we lost was institutional memory of why we negotiated the contract the way it is. Then when that person retired or left and went to a different department, and a new person's looking at the contract, like, why did they give into this? And why didn't they ask for that? And why are these the KPIs? And, what are we doing? So does that institutional memory of how AI made the recommendation stick in the tool so I can go back and review it at another date?
No, that's the exact reason why you need a system, right? When you think about it, that institutional memory, if you don't have a good system, you don't have it. You will not get it, right? And people leave, people change. That's another problem, right? And with so much of dynamic, like it's the changes happening, system remembers everything that you did. That is, what was the ask? What's the give? Right? And what were the second round of negotiation, third round of negotiation? It will give you the complete history and final position that you've taken on a similar contract. Not necessarily a totally different contract, but on a similar contract. But on a different contract, it can give you so many other recommendations. So, like it can sort through millions of data points and give you the recommendations that you never could imagine. So AI makes it possible, and we have built those algorithms, making it easy for our customers.
Wow. So do you integrate with most of the big procure-to-pay systems? Are you a standalone? Tell me, how do you fit in the ecosystem?
Yeah, the way we look at it is we play very well in the ecosystem where we have to integrate, right, with all the CRMs and the ERPs. So we integrate with about 3 CRMs right now and about 3 ERPs and many other systems, like, for example, the red flag, whether the vendor is the right vendor to do the business with. So system can automatically look at your contract and then say, okay, these are the issues. with this contract, particularly this vendor, export control. So many other checks that system can do. So we are integrating, we have about 30 different integrations as of now. And all of those are done with no IT involvement, pretty much. The business user will be able to integrate. It's a drag and drop integration.
It was funny, and this is going to show how far it's come. When they first started introducing OCR, optical character recognition, scanning contracts into a system, so we could look for clauses, that was groundbreaking. And that wasn't that long ago that we were talking about things like that. And AI was always out there, but we didn't quite believe in it. It wasn't quite here yet. So tell me, does the AI get smarter as my company works with the system and adjusts the AI recommendations? Does it learn as we go, or is it static?
No, it is. It is completely dynamic. It learns as you go. So the first is on the AI, there's a model that we ship out of the box. And with that, you'll be able to extract key information from the contracts when you start. But that's where we differentiate. It's not about getting the data and building analytics, which we do pretty well. Mm-hmm. But you go beyond that. There is interaction, there is negotiation, there is collaboration that will happen within the company. All those things, our AI learns from it. It knows what's happening, and based on the natural language processing, it really understands the type of interactions that you've done and gives you very concrete recommendations.
So just out of curiosity, was the most often searched term in 2020 force majeure?
It was. It was. Actually, every vendor will say that, okay, force majeure. Okay. And do I have pandemic, do I have enough protection against pandemic? Yes. So that was one of the biggest one. And it was so easy to do that. And I was like, really? That's all you want?
But for people that are used to paper, and which, I'll tell you, our members are always learning and becoming more strategic. But I know I have members that don't have a contract lifecycle management system and have a lot of paper contracts still. And I talked to CPOs who had to have people go back in the office to find those binders.
Exactly.
So, you laugh, but you haven't lived in this paper world that has been so predominant, in procurement. And
that's
yeah, so you laugh, but I've lived the other side of it, which is why I was so excited and why I panicked when they sent all these procurement people home. I thought, how are they going to function if they don't have technology?
That's right. Now I cannot imagine, but still many companies are still doing that way. But I think it's a matter of time. They'll be switching. They'll see the value of it so fast.
Yeah, it's no longer an early adopter issue. This should be table stakes for everybody now. Everyone should be accepting that this is the norm. So we're seeing a lot of conversation, a lot of changes with focus on ESG. And so ESG, really the focus is more on the sustainability side of it, the social side, obviously the governance, but then also diversity, equity, inclusion. So are those type of instances built into the negotiations, into the contract terms and languages, carbon offsets, greenhouse gases, all of that, scope 1, 2, 3 emissions? Do you address all that in the contract lifecycle management process?
So, that's an awesome question. A couple of customers have asked for it. Still, it's not on the top of the list, but it's a matter of time. Yes, a couple of customers have asked for it, and very soon we'll be addressing that. Right now we don't, but we'll be addressing that pretty soon.
Good. Well, so SIG is in support, and we work with the UN on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so I am personally thrilled to see procurement taking such a strong stance. And I think it's going to grow dramatically because that's where the investment dollars are going.
That's right. And believe it or not, because of that, our company was always on the other side of the equation. We were always diverse. We always focused on bringing, our men to women ratio in the company is about, equal. 47% was women. So I rather have it as exactly 50-50. We are very close to that. But with that said, the reason why I'm saying that is because all these customers started asking, we are putting more focus on that just to make sure that we, reflect that in our own company.
Yes. Good. I'm glad that you take it personally as well. I think that's extremely important. Good. And then, so when you think of procurement groups that you work with, and obviously procurement's always involved in the contracting at some point, what do you think some of the biggest challenges that we have as an industry to overcome in the next few years?
No, definitely, the complexity of non-standard terms will just go through the skyrocket, will just go through the roof. And one of the areas that I wish we can all get together and then build some standards, right? Some standards. Actually, with the AI, it makes it, at least it can give you, okay, these are the 10 possibilities, right? Rather than making it 1,000 possibilities, can we bring it to 10, 20, so that it becomes easier and faster for the negotiation, right?
Okay, so tell me more about the standards. Give me an example.
So let's take limitations of liability.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest, clauses that gets negotiated a lot. There are so many different ways that lawyers can phrase that, right? The language, like company X and company Y and company Z, each one looks so different. But underneath, there are some commonalities. And that's what our AI is looking for, as an example. And if we can help our, our customers to say, okay, these are the, 10 flavors that you have, rather than going for 1,000 flavors. And then try to standardize, at least within the company. Let's start with that, right? So these are the variations that we accept, which becomes, of course, when you think about it, it's a playbook. But that playbook, when you're dealing with millions of contracts, just gets crazier and crazier. And that we want to make it manageable. But within the company, yes, of course, that's what we are focusing on, right? And we are helping the companies do that. But if we can have all the companies, like the industries, come together and then say, okay, let's build some consortium to have some common clauses, right? And that will help everyone. That will help the industry. And of course, either way, we're fine. We're doing well. Whether you give 1 million of those or 10,000 of those, we will be able to ingest and build AI algorithms. But it's in the company, the industry's interest to build some commonality. And that will help the negotiation go much faster.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, all right, you've already planted a seed. I think I'm going to be following up with you because I would love to write that kind of playbook with you. And on behalf, and our SIG members would love to have something like that. And we're always trying to find ways to streamline the work processes so that we can, smart people don't want to do dumb work and they don't want to do repetitive work. And so the more we can automate and put in standards like that, the more work we can get done, and we can take our minds up to the 40,000 foot level where a good sourcing person should be, not down in the weeds negotiating, limits of liability. So, so I think you're onto something that's got me excited.
No, that's absolutely right, and you guys can make a big difference as industry leaders. You have so much of, so many industries working with you, and happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah, I think that'd be really neat. So when we talk about the future and digitalization, we always talk about the balance between people, process, and technology. And do you think there are those three legs of a stool, or does one of those stand out to be more important than the other?
Depends on many companies. Sometimes technology, they're so starving for the technology, and some companies are so starving for processes, and they do the other extreme, right? So no processes or very little on processes, or they may go to the other extreme of, death by 1,000 cuts. So there are so many processes. So in general, I think it all boils down to the first thing is people, right? people. If you have the right people at the right place, and if you put the right incentive structure to make sure they succeed, they can collaborate, then the process and technology will happen in the right direction. So the people is the first thing that, for me, in most of the companies that I've seen, can take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be so much of friction between, departments and the players. So they can do a great job by putting the right people and the right incentive structure for them to work together.
Yeah, and your tool takes a lot of that friction away by simplifying it and commonizing it and creating a process that is smooth across legal, finance, and procurement at the same time. So
Exactly.
I like that answer. So I would love to invite you back and get an update on your story. So can I invite you back to the podcast?
Would be happy to come back anytime you call me.
Well, and I can't wait. Folks, if you don't know who Hemanth Puttaswamy is, if you don't know who Malbek is, and I bet you a lot of you listening do not, Malbek, you need to make sure to look them up, connect up, and make sure that Hemanth is part of your network. But make sure, as I always tell you, you don't know what you don't know. So if you haven't looked at Malbek, you don't know what they could be doing for you. So I encourage all of you to take that journey. They wouldn't be a future five. You know that Spend Matters and Sig, we have a very close partnership. We have the utmost respect for their recommendations. So if they're a future five in the eyes of Spend Matters, they're a future five for you. So folks, I encourage you to go out and research both Hemanth and the company. And Hemanth, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It's a pleasure having this conversation. I totally enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. And make sure you tune into the podcast again very soon.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast through iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Want to nominate someone for an interview? Email us at info@sig.org.